Last week, the European Parliament passed resolutions condemning the repressive forced assimilation of Tibetan children in Chinese state-run boarding schools in Tibet and criticizing the promulgation of the Chinese government's Order No. 19. The resolutions were adopted with a vast majority from the members of the Parliament. We will discuss the recent developments in favor of Tibet in the European Parliament, and I'm very pleased to have Representative Rigzin Choedon Genkhang from the Office of Tibet, Brussels. Tashi Delek, and welcome to our program, Madam. Congratulations on having this resolution passed in the European Parliament. Can you tell us what does the resolution entails, and could you also tell us the background of this achievement?
Thank you very much. This is, I think, a very significant achievement because this is the first ever resolution in the European Parliament on the forced assimilation of Tibetan children. And we have been working on this for over a year. And I'm very pleased that this has come to fruition just before Christmas. And the Parliament member that tabled the resolution is Ms. Salima Yenbu. So she was one of the delegates who traveled to Dharamsala in March earlier this year. I would, of course, like to express my gratitude to the European Parliament for adopting these two resolutions and also for taking a strong stance on on China's forced assimilation of Tibetan children and also on the promulgation of Order No. 19. And likewise, I would also like to acknowledge the efforts put forward by MEP Salima Yenbu for the resolution and MEP Hilde Voetmans for the report of the EUChina of the Foreign Affairs Committee on the EU-China relations.
And also, the last resolution on Tibet was passed in the European Parliament in 2019, condemning the China's action, including the so-called patriotic education campaign in Tibet. So this resolution, this time the resolution came after 4 years, and so can you tell us what's the implication here, and do you see there's a growing support for Tibet cause in the European Parliament now?
We have actually always enjoyed a very good support from the European Parliament for the Tibetan issue, and I think we have been very lucky, despite despite a lot of pressure from the Chinese government. The European Parliament continues to support the Tibet issue. However, as you rightly said, this resolution comes after 4 years, so I think in this way it is again another, it's much more significant because it has come after 4 years, and the fact that they are raising this very important issue of the Chinese state-run boarding school and condemning them, and also calling for the immediate abolition of the state-run boarding schools in Tibet is, I think, very significant.
Could you elaborate the significance of such resolution on EU-China relations?
As you know, the European Parliament resolutions, though they are non-binding, but however, since it is adopted in the European Parliament, which is the second democratic electorate in the world just after India, and also the fact that there are members of Parliament from 27 different member states with 705 Parliament members, I think this is this makes it much more important than, of course, resolutions passed in the national parliaments. And I think this will have some sort of consequence on the EU-China relations, because as you may have seen, after the European Parliament adopted the resolution, the Chinese government has come out and they have rejected the adoption of the resolution on the Chinese state-run boarding schools in Tibet. So I think China is feeling the heat. This is the reason why they were compelled to make a number of communications rejecting the resolution. So this will have some consequences on the EU-China relations.
Can you walk us through the process of passing a resolution in the European Parliament?
Well, in the European Parliament, of course, either one member or a number of members can table a resolution on a topic that they choose to table a resolution. And then, of course, it has to be supported by the major political groups. You know, there are 7 political groups in the European Parliament, so the bigger groups must support it, support the motion so that it can be on the agenda of the European Parliament's plenary. So there is a lot of back and forth negotiation before any issue can make it to the agenda of the European Parliament. Then it is discussed then there is a debate in the European Parliament when the Parliament is in session in Strasbourg. And then after that, the resolution is adopted.
Oh, and do you see any prospect of these resolutions becoming a law soon?
Like I said earlier, European Parliament resolutions are non-binding, but of course it depends on the European Commission whether they would want to make it into a law, because the resolutions will be forwarded to the presidents of the Council and the Commission, since the Commission is the executive of the European Union. So any law that they want to initiate must be proposed by the European Commission. Maybe, if I may, I would just like to add one thing. There was a resolution in the European Parliament that was adopted on the 14th of December. And then there was the report by the Foreign Affairs Committee of the EU-China Foreign Affairs Committee on the EU-China relations that was adopted on the 13th of December. So, of course, a report after it is being voted in the plenary by all the members of the European Parliament, then it becomes also a resolution. So in that sense, we have had sort of 2 resolutions. And if you look at the report on the EU-China relations of the Foreign Affairs Committee, you will find 2 important paragraphs on that, again condemning the forced assimilation of Tibetan children, and also the promulgation of the Order number 19 that came into force on the 1st of September this year.
Thank you so much, Kongola, for talking to us about this very important resolution on Tibet in the European Parliament. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.